I wanted to ask you about Jalen Smith, too, because he almost was a Buckeye. And when you evaluated him as a linebacker, what stood out back then? And maybe what, I know you don't watch him as much now, but what stands out?
No, I think the unique thing is a lot of times you're looking for at linebackers, if you can find a guy that truly could be recruited as a tailback. And I think that's one of those things that most of those guys that are tailbacks, they want the ball, and they always want to be a tailback. And if you ever can convert some of those guys that were legitimate tailbacks that can move themselves over to play linebacker, now you're looking at a different cat, a different athlete, a guy that can do some different things. And I think that's one of those things you look at Jalen Smith as is, in high school, hey, that guy was a heck of an athlete. He was a running back. You didn't know what he was going to play. And that's the unique thing with some of the guys that we got. I mean, you take a Darren Lee and you look at him as a high school quarterback, and most teams, and a lot of teams in high school, if you got your best athlete, where are you going to put him? You're going to put him at quarterback so he can touch the ball every snap. You got a couple other guys. Raekwon was a tailback. He'd like to tell you that he was a heck of a tailback, but until I actually saw him play live, I wouldn't have said he was a heck of a tailback. But a guy that's athletic enough that could carry the football, those are kind of guys that become difference makers a lot of times. And that's something that's unique that I don't know that in the whole time I've had a lot of great linebackers, been fortunate enough to coach a lot of great linebackers at Ohio State. I don't know if there's a ton of them that could play truly tailback at the college level. Shazier may be one of them, and maybe a couple, maybe Darren. But there's a few of those guys out there that they could do that. They're a unique breed.
Coach, just what stands out on the Notre Dame offense that you guys have to be prepared for?
Well, I think it starts with their offensive line. I think, like I said before, I think this is good offensive line as we've seen all year, and that's what makes them go. People will look statistically at a lot of different things, but the reality is, that when you can run the ball as well as they can, that opens up everything else. And I think that's where people don't realize, sometimes the big name guys, they talk about the quarterback and the receivers and the running backs, and this is their other quarterback and what has he done. But the reality is what keeps everything rolling, what keeps everything together is the strength of their offensive line.
How good of a matchup is the Stanley versus Brooklyn matchup?
Oh, it's great, but that's the beautiful thing about football, that you can't get tied into a matchup. It's not the NBA. It's not one-on-one. Let's clear them out and let them go one-on-one. There's not going to be a stoppage in action and say, let's go one-on-one with some actions. There'll obviously be matchups here and there, but the reality is that whichever guy is best for his team and does the best things for his team will help his team be victorious.
Thanks, Gary.
Sure.
Coach, when you look at Sean Kaiser, what he can do, does it help?
That's a good question. I don't know if we were that level, but I think we were pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think defensively in general, I think this is one of those teams that's probably a little bit closer to our offense than we've seen most of the year.
The other guys
to have that to go against the daily,
trying to make plays, and
it's obviously a benefit.
And the other.
We don't see a ton of quarterback run game from our own guys during practice, but the reality is a lot of the things that they do with the RPOs,
and I think that was huge for us.
If you try to load the box, taking the shots outside, there's a lot of similarities with things that it's been good work for us.
Close to us. Like Bobby and I are very close, and I'm very close with Anthony Schlegel. So.
They do. They understand. I mean, they understand obviously the tradition of Ohio State. A lot of these guys probably 70-some% of our team is from the 250-mile radius. So I would imagine a lot of those guys were either recruited or thought about Notre Dame, had visited over there. We've got a lot of Catholic school kids ourselves, so they understand the tradition that they have. Obviously, they understand our tradition. I don't know that every single one of them understands the history of the 6 games that have been played and how few and far between those games have been, but they definitely understand the tradition of both places and the matchup that it really brings this thing probably to the top of the list.
When you look at the way you lost to Michigan State last second, their 2 losses, Stanford, Clemson, 4 points, you both could have been there. Do you think there's a case to be made from 4 teams to 8 teams?
That's way above my pay grade. So we're excited to be here. I mean, that's the thing. We can't spend a whole lot of time on worried about that. I mean, college football in general, that's what's beautiful about it is, I think they've got the monopoly on the ability to keep everybody talking about this, whether it's a 4-team playoff or whatever it is. It's going to give them the ability to talk about this for 10 months out of the year and maybe let them talk about basketball for the month of March and a few other sports here and there during their time. But the reality is,
a big momentum change, and I think
they're still student athletes, and there's a lot of other things that go into the makeup of that. So I know this. I know both of us feel like we're a player too short, but that's the name of the game. and we both have something to prove. So it's going to be a heck of a matchup.
We know Joey's going to get drafted at some point this year, next year, we're not sure, but we know he's going high in the draft. They have offensive line, NFL talent on their side. Is this almost an audition game on some level?
That's the beauty of the thing I said before about football. It's not a one-on-one sport. This isn't basketball. They can clear the lane out and let the two guys go and put the cameras on them. That's something for you guys to go ahead and throw a camera on when they are matched up. But the reality is, whoever does the best job for their team in a lot of different aspects, in a lot of different ways, whether it's one-on-one with each other, is going to help benefit their team to have a chance to win. There's going to be a lot of great matchups out there. We got some good corners. We're going to match up on some good wideouts. We got some other good defensive ends. They're going to get a test against some great offensive tackles as well. So there's a lot of great matchups, and that's the beautiful thing about football. You can't just focus on one matchup. I mean, it might be a little bit easier if there was a true outside guy on a corner that you could focus on, but the reality, the strength of what we do is sometimes the ability for Joey to be able to move around too.
Yeah, I'm guessing this won't be a typical game for him with Tommy and the Dolphins.
No, I mean, again, we don't want to change exactly what it is that we've done. We've been very successful at it, and that's probably one of the things that we talk about at the beginning of the year about everybody's wondering how you're going to be judged and what are our goals and all these different things defensively. And we said we don't have goals, we have objectives. Objectives are things that we focus on every single day. We'll let the goals kind of fall into the way at the end of the year when people start breaking down the stats. But the most important thing for us was to play our best ball at the end of the year, and the only way we could do that was to have consistency. And to move guys around a ton doesn't help with your consistency of what you do. So we know there's some things we got to be able to do, but again, we got to be who we are, and that's why we prepare those younger guys, those other guys, to step into these roles as well.
When you look at their offense, what keeps you up at night? What's the scariest thing about it?
It's the big playability. I think they probably lead the nation in like somebody said, plays over 70. The plays over 70 yards aren't something that they're concerning, but it's the 20, 25, 30-yard plays that are momentum changers and field changers. And, really, to be honest with you, we lost the Michigan State game because we let them flip the field on us. A 24-yard run with 7 minutes to go in the game coming out of the end zone, to me, is the difference in the ball game. And those are the kinds of things that keep you up at night. It's whether it's they got the ability to break that in a run, break that in a bubble pass, or even break that in a shot down the field.
Last year you're playing for the title, this year you're playing, it's more of a pride thing. What role does that play for you in a pride game against Notre Dame?
That's what we make sure we understand. These guys understand this is about a journey. And when I only focus on the destination, there's going to be a lot of disappointment. And the reality is it's been a journey, and we talk about that from the beginning of the year. This might not have been the destination point that we wanted. Obviously, everybody wants to be in the national championship or in the playoff, but the reality is there's a lot of pride in what these guys have done. And this is the ability for these guys to play their last game, for their seniors to have a chance to go out with 50 victories in a 4-year span. There's nothing short of what this game means and what this game can do to both programs.
You talked about playing in the 95 game?
No, I've not talked about playing in the 95 game.
What does that mean to you? You remember the hype surrounding that?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first matchup, probably, that was the first time we played since maybe 30s. Something way back, and that's kind of what you're talking about, a lot of these guys don't look back that far in those things, but the reality, growing up in Columbus, Ohio, being an Ohio State fan, being a Catholic school kid and being recruited by Notre Dame and having a lot of those similarities, it was something special. Let's be one of those first teams to play at home. In that 95 game was obviously great, and obviously the way it ended, obviously, is something that you remember a lot better too, being a player.
Did you visit there?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was one of those 3 or 4 schools that when they dropped wrestling, though, it kind of was something that was helped me take different places, different things off the map for me.
How do you do without two of your regulars this week?
Again, that's what you practice for all year, and those guys, an opportunity for these guys to step up. The biggest thing we miss is their presence. To have 2 seniors, guys that have been there for 4 years since the very start. Obviously you'll miss their play on the field on game day on Friday, but what's really missed is their presence every single day. For those guys to be out there, those guys to be a part of what it is they've done, they are a part of this, and they're a big part of this. And to not have them out there on a daily basis, I think, is the toughest thing.
Who gets the first shot inside?
You know what? I don't know that we know for sure right now. I think Donovan Munger, Michael Hill will be the guy. Obviously, he'll play probably at the nose spot for Tommy. Donovan Munger, Tracy Sprinkle will be the 2 guys that roll more at the 3 technique spot.